maples turn to fire on the hill behind your house. I watch them through the kitchen glass, as quiet as a mouse. The coffee cup still warm between my weathered hands, while outside every colored leaf let go and touch the land. It's funny how October comes around each year, wearing all the same bright colors, and yet something disappears. The days grow short and golden, and the mornings carry frost, and the autumn leaves keep falling like the years we lost. I remember how you loved it when the air turned cool and thin. You'd pull a scarf around your neck and let the season in. We'd walk along the river where the willows wept and swayed, and I never thought that kind of afternoon could fade. But time moves like a river, gentle, then it's gone. And you were always better than me at just moving on. I'm standing in the same yard, underneath the same sky, watching every colored memory fall and saying goodbye. There's a cardinal on the fence post in the November rain. He sits like he's reminding me to not rehearse the pain. The oak tree in the corner still holds a few leaves tight, as if it knows that letting go takes more than just one night. I've learned to sit with autumn now and let it do its work, to find the grace in endings and not in what they hurt. Because every fallen leaf becomes the ground for something new, and somewhere in this season I'm learning to start through. The autumn leaves fell like the years we lost, beautiful and slow, each one carrying its cost. But I found something steady in the letting go, like the trees that trust the winter will bring another show. Yeah, counting what it cost. But even in the falling, there is something like a grace, and I'll carry all those golden years to some warmer, softer place. The fireflies come out around the 7th hour, when the heat goes soft and leans into the twilight's power. I'm sitting on the porch steps with a mason jar of tea, and the summer air is thick with something close to memory. The neighbor's radio drifts over through the hedge, an old song from the summer. We were walking on the edge of something new and trembling like a moth against the screen. The sweetest kind of life I've ever known or ever seen. The crickets haven't changed a note in all these years gone by. They still set up their chorus underneath the same night sky. And the smell of cut grass arising and the cooling of the earth brings me back to every summer and what it was all worth. We'd lie out in the backfield on a blanket spread on ground, watching for the shooting stars without making a sound. Just the breathing of the night around us and your hand in mine, somewhere between the fireflies and the Milky Way's bright line. The moon comes up the same way that it always has, slow and sure, rising through the oak limbs like it's searching for a cure for all the things that summer carries. When the heart grows long, all the love that stays inside a person like a song. I don't need you here beside me to feel what we were then. The summer nights got long enough to hold us once again. In the heat and in the stillness and the whisper of the trees, your name still rides the summer air like something on the breeze. Summer nights still carry your name in the dark and in the warm and in the lightning flash of flame, and the fireflies and the crickets and the slow July moon, in every open window and the scent of honeysuckle perfume. Yeah, summer nights still carry your name, and I'm not trying to hold it, it just comes and goes the same. Some things don't leave the season where they first found the light, and you're still in every firefly on every summer night. Started sometime in the early evening hours, when the sky turned to a bruise and the air smelled of showers. I went to close the window like I always used to do, but I stopped before I reached it, and and I stood there thinking of you. Because the rain came down in ribbons on the old tin roof, and the sound it made was asking me for some kind of proof that I'd be alright out here now, on the far side of the storm. That silence has a softer edge, and emptiness gets warm. You used to love the sound of rain. You'd say it cleared your mind, and that it rinsed away the weak and left the gentler things behind. You'd make us both some chamomile and light a candle low, and we'd sit and watch the water running rivers down below. The window pane still catches rain, the same as it did then. The light still bends the same way through each slow and steady glen. But the listening's different now. There's no one left to share the particular quiet kind of music only raindrops make in the air. I think I'm learning slowly what the rain's been trying to say, that it's not about the water, but the washing things away. That grief has got its seasons, just the same as any field, and what you lose in winter is the seed that spring will yield. So I sit beside the window now, without the candle lit, and I let the sound just wash on over everything that's split. And I thank the rain for coming, even heavy as it falls, because at least it fills the silence in these thin and echoing walls. The rain sounds different since you've been gone, like it's missing something, playing the same old song. But it still comes, and it still falls, and it still finds the ground. And I'm still here beside the window, leaning into the sound. Yeah, the rain sounds different since you've been gone, but I think it's teaching me to carry on. Every drop's a little mercy when you're learning how to grieve, and the rain keeps right on falling, like it's never gonna leave. The first freeze came in early on a Tuesday night, and I woke up to the silence in the pale December light. The pipes ticked in the cold, and the floorboards groaned and spoke, and every sound was lonesome, like a word without its folk. I turned the furnace up and made a pot of breakfast tea, and stood in all those quiet rooms that used to hold us, me and she. The curtains didn't move, the chairs sat where they always sat, and winter made the house feel twice as empty. Just like that. There's a wreath still on the doorframe from December last year's end. I keep meaning to take down it, but somehow I don't attend. It's gone a little faded, like most things here have done, bleached out by the passing months and what cannot be undone. I split some wood in early afternoon in the cold, clear air. The physicality of it, a comfort like a prayer. And the smoke from the chimney climbed up into winter gray, a signal that someone's living here, who's learning day by day. By evening I had made a fire and sat down in the glow and watched the orange and amber light move soft and warm and slow. The old dog laid his head across my boot like he always does, and reminded me that even winter's full of what love was. I'm not alone, not really. There's a whole world in this fire, and every spoken log that pops in every climbing spire, of smoke and heat and memory of everything we built. And winter made the house feel empty, but not empty to the hilt. Winter made the house feel twice as empty, that's the truth. Every room a little colder, every corner needing proof that warmth can live without a person standing in the light. But I'm finding it in firewood and in the dog and in the night. Yeah, winter made the house feel twice as empty, I won't lie. But I built the fire higher, and I let the cold go by. And I think by the time the crocuses push up through the snow, I'll have learned to fill this house again with everything I know. I found it in the hall closet behind the winter coats, a brown and worn old leather thing with collar turned at the throat. I don't know why I kept it hanging there so long, but I put it on my shoulders and it all came rushing strong. The smell of cold November, wood smoke and wet leaves, the frost that hung on everything and bit into your knees, the feeling of an evening when the world went still and clear, and everything you loved about your life was standing near. I wore that jacket everywhere that autumn long ago, to Friday night football games where our breath rose like snow, to late walks through the town square when the store lights glowed like gold, and it held me through the everything before the story was told. And she'd take hold of the collar and pull me close and say that she loved this time of year more than any other day, when the world was small and amber and the dark came in so warm, and all we needed was each other standing in the storm. I stood in the hallway for a long while, breathing it all in, that particular November that will not come again. The ghost of every cold night we walked under naked trees, with the town behind us glowing and our hands locked at the sleeve. There's a worn spot on the right cuff where she used to hold me tight, and I can feel exactly where her fingers were tonight. Memory lives in cloth and leather, in the texture of the old, more faithfully than photographs, and more precisely than the cold. A quiet moment. If these songs find something in you that November put to sleep, some season, some old jacket, some memory worth keep, stay a while and let the music bring it back to light. Like and follow, friend, these songs are meant for nights like this. That old jacket still smells like cold November nights, like wood smoke and leaf piles and those long gone amber lights, like the version of myself who hadn't learned to ache, like the hands that held me and the promises we'd make. Yeah, that old jacket still smells like cold November nights, and I hung it back up gently in the hallway out of sight. But I'll know it's there in January when the winter hits the bone, that something warm from someone loved is never really gone. The forsythia lit up yellow overnight, like 1,000 small suns burst along the fence in the morning light. The robins came back arguing and staking out their ground, and the world grew loud with everything that spring had found. I went out in my boots through the soft and muddy yard, the earth giving under me still thawing still scarred from the long white winter that had pressed its weight down here, and I felt it all around me, the turning of the year. I planted what I always plant, the tomatoes and the peas, the marigolds you love to put along the path of trees. And somewhere in the digging, with my hands deep in the ground, I thought I heard you in the garden, but there wasn't any sound. Only the shovel turning and the sparrow in the eve, and the particular clean sweetness of the earth that starts to breathe. It's strange how a season comes back faithful every time, and some things don't, and that's just the way the calendar and life combine. By May the yard was full of green, and reaching toward the light, the clematis you planted climbed the trellis overnight. And I stood there in the evening with the hose running slow, watching what you started years ago still grow and grow. And I think I understood something that I've been fighting along, that you didn't leave the garden, you just became the song in every living color that comes pushing through the cold, in the faithful return of something that cannot be told. Spring came back, but you never did, and the yard grew green over everything we hid. The flowers don't know absence, they just rise toward the sun, and I'm learning from their patience what it means to carry on. Yeah, spring came back the way that it always has alive, and I'm learning that the season is the reason I survive. You planted something in me, like you planted in that ground, and every spring it comes back up, and I know you're still around. There's a particular kind of wind that comes in early fall, that moves through everything at once, the trees, the gate, the hall. It isn't cold yet, not quite warm, but something in between, the last long breath of summer and the first of what is lean. I was standing on the highway with the truck idling low, the day you turned and walked away with nowhere much to go. Just the road behind you and the wind picking up your hair, and the feeling that the whole world shifted right there in that air. Now every time that in between kind of wind comes through, I feel the weight of standing on that highway missing you. Not with the sharp edge of the early grief, it's something old, more like an understanding of a story that's been told. The wind can't help but be the wind. It moves and doesn't know what it carries when it crosses through the places that we go. But it lifted something off me in those years of working through, and now it feels familiar, like a long letter from you. I'm not afraid of goodbyes like I was when I was young, when a door closed and felt like fire at the back of my lungs. Now I've lived enough of them to know that what goes out leaves room for something unexpected to come about. And the wind has been my teacher in its steady, careless way, moving through the fences, through the open fields of gray, saying nothing but suggesting that release is not the same as loss, that a goodbye is just a doorway, and a doorway has no cost. The wind still feels like your goodbye when it comes through the trees. There's a tenderness about it and a certain kind of ease, like it knows it touched you somewhere in a life I wasn't part, and it's been carrying your memory across my open heart. Yeah, the wind still feels like your goodbye, not sad, just true. And I let it move right through me, like the wind is meant to do, because some things are just the weather, and the weather doesn't stay. And I've made my peace with everything. The wind is blown away. Came in from the southwest with that low green evening sky. The kind of storm that makes you want to say goodbye to all your ordinary troubles, 'cause the thunder's got a voice that makes the small things smaller and leaves you with no choice. But to sit beside the window with the lights down low and wait, and feel the pressure changing at the door, at the gate. And somewhere in that rumbling that came up from the south, I heard your memory rising like a prayer in my mouth. You always loved a good storm, said it made you feel awake, said the lightning was the kind of thing that God used just to take the inventory of what's living and what's worth keeping near. You'd stand out on the back step till the neighbors thought you were queer, but you'd come in with that light behind your eyes, rain-soaked and bright, like the storm had told you something in its wild electric night. And I'd dry your hair and wrap you up, and you would laugh and say that the storm always reminded you we're only here to stay a day. The storm last week came hard and fast and left the yard a mess, snapped a limb off the old elm and rearranged the rest. I walked out in the morning when the air was clean and clear, and found the broken places where the storm had passed right here. But the garden came through mostly, and the robins were already out, and the world smelled new and open like a truth without a doubt. And I thought of how you loved it, that freshness after rain, and how the storm keeps bringing you back to me again. A quiet moment, if a storm has ever spoken with a voice you used to know, if you've listened for a memory in the thunder's afterglow, then this music is for you. Stay close, subscribe and stay. Some sounds are worth returning to on any given day. I heard your memory in the sound of the storm, in the low green sky before it, and the air still close and warm, in the thunder's conversation, in the lightning's sudden truth, in the way the whole world opens when the rain comes through the roof. Yeah, I heard your memory in the sound of the storm, and it didn't make me frightened, it just made me feel more formed, like the storm was just a message from the seasons we've been through, and every crack of thunder is another word from you. I've been waking up before the light for half a year or more, just lying in the darkness, listening to what the morning's for. And then the window starts to pale somewhere around the east, and the sky begins its slow work, turning the dark into the feast of color, rose and amber, and a stripe of cold pale blue. And the day assembles itself like it always does anew. And no matter what I lay down with the night before my bed, the sunrise lifts it gentle as a hand beneath my head. My grandfather would tell me, son, the sun comes up the same on the good days and the hard ones, and the ones without a name. It doesn't ask you what you've lost or how you spend the night. It just rises up regardless, and it fills the world with light. And I didn't understand it like I do now that I'm old. Now that I've got more mornings behind me than the ones I'm told, and each one feels more precious in the way that scarce things do. Like every sunrise is a gift I didn't know I'm owed to. I take my coffee out now in the thin and early air, while the mist still holds the hollow and the lights still finding where to land across the fields, the fence, the dewy spider's lace. And I just stand there breathing in the morning's open face. And something in that ritual has healed a part of me that no amount of talking or thinking could have freed. Because the sunrise doesn't argue with the night that came before. It just comes up steady and reminds me what life's for. The sunrise reminds me life keeps moving slow and sure. Every morning bringing something new and something pure. And I've cried into a sunrise, and I've laughed into the light, and I've stood out in the rose gold feeling everything's alright. Yeah, the sunrise reminds me life keeps moving every day. No matter what you're carrying or what won't go away, it comes up faithful on the east horizon, warm and true. And it says, another morning, friend. Now what are you gonna do? It wasn't any one wind that brought us down. It was the slow accumulation of the dry and turning brown, of little conversations that had lost their holding strength, and silences that stretched themselves to an uncomfortable length. The house was full of October light, that low and amber kind that makes everything look beautiful and makes you feel half blind to what's been coming slowly, like the seasons inevitable call. We were two leaves on the same branch, and it was almost fall. We didn't fight about it, that was never really us. We just drifted to our separate rooms without a lot of fuss. And by the time the last leaves fell from the oak outside the door, we'd both become the quiet that had moved in long before. I packed my things on a Saturday when the yard was golden brown and the leaves were letting go. As I was leaving town, and I watched them in the mirror as I drove out through the gate, understanding something I'd been too close to see, too close and too late. October hasn't felt the same since that long ago fall, but it's softened some with years, the way most hard things do after all. Now I see the beauty in it, the way the trees let go, with something that looks almost like relief, almost like a glow. Because those leaves don't grieve the branch they hung on all year long. They just go wherever the wind carries them, and then they're gone. And maybe we were like that, two things with a natural end, two good people in a season that had run beyond its bed. We fell apart like the last leaves of October, you and me, natural and unhurried, and a little bittersweet to see. Not dramatic in the ending, just the quiet of the fall, just the letting go of something that was beautiful through all. Yeah, we fell apart like the last leaves of October from the tree, and the winter came and covered what we'd been so carefully. But I'd I'd rather have the autumn that we had than none at all. And I thank you for the color that you gave before the fall. There's an August of a certain year that never really left, a morning and an afternoon cut precisely like a cleft. In time, the way the heat sat still, the way the screen door swayed, the particular damp sweetness of the porch where we both stayed. Some seasons mark you in a way the calendar can't hold. They settle into who you are before you've gotten old. And no matter what the weather is outside this window now, that August still lives in my chest. I don't know when or how. There's a winter, I was 12, when the snow came deep and long, and the world went wide and narrow, and the silence made me strong. We slid the hill behind the church until our hands went numb, and came inside to soup and wood smoke and the radio's soft hum. I think that winter made me something that I carry every year, a trust in the eventual thought and a comfort with what's near. Some seasons show you who you are before you know you're there, and leave that knowledge with you like a signature in the air. And there's a May that I remember, the year I fell in love, when everything was possible and aided from above. The lilacs were ridiculous that year, thick and oversweet, and every evening felt like grace, and every hour complete. That May is in my laughter, even now when life goes right. It rises up unbidden, like a flame against the night. Some seasons are more permanent than others, they become a part of how you're built, the deep interior hum. A quiet moment, if you've got a season, living somewhere in your chest. A summer, fall, or winter morning you remember as your best, then these songs were made for you. Stay a while, subscribe. Some memories need music just to know they're still alive. Some seasons stay inside you forever, that's just true. An August or a winter or a May that changed you through and through. They're not the ones on calendars or the ones that people name. They're the ones that touched you deepest and made you not the same. Yes, some seasons stay inside you forever, and in how you're never quite alone, because you carry all those weathers, all that light and all that rain, and every season that has found you finds you somehow again and again. It snowed all night without a sound, the way the good snow does. It covered all the ordinary, and the edges and the flaws. By morning there was nothing left of the yard I know by heart, just a white and even canvas, waiting for a start. The driveway and the garden beds, the old gate, the back path, the places where the summer lived along the south-facing half, all of it erased beneath that quiet white degree. The snow covered everything and left my memories. I stood out in it early with my hands around my cup, breathing out small clouds of warmth while the cold was waking up. And somewhere beneath all that white I knew exactly where the peonies would bloom again when June comes back with air. I knew where every garden tool sat hung along the shed, and where the wood was stacked and where the bird feeder was fed, because the snow can't cover what lives inside a man, the things he's memorized by living, no winter ever can. She stood that last warm day before the cold, right there at the corner of the fence, her hair touched with gold. And I know the sound of her laugh in that particular light, just before the year turned dark and before that winter's night. The snow can't cover that, it doesn't have the reach or weight to go into the places where the permanent things wait. Memory lives below the surface, warmer than the ground, and no amount of winter ever snows the deep things down. The snow covered everything except my memories. It covered all the outside, but it left the inside free. Left the map I made by loving every corner of this life. Left the voices and the laughter and the warmth without the strife. Yeah, the snow covered everything except my memories tonight, and it made the world look beautiful in and all that plain white light. And I'm standing in the quiet with the heart still warm and full, because love lives deeper than the winter, and no winter makes it null.
We didn't have a destination, that was half the point. Just a tank of gas and the whole long afternoon to anoint with whatever came. Back roads through the fields of green corn tall, with the windows down, and something on the radio's call. The road heat shimmered up ahead like promises unclear, and the world was wide and golden, and the sky was open here. And everything we wanted could have been 100 miles away, but we were rich enough just driving through that summer day. We'd stop at whatever caught our eye, a roadside stand, a sign, fresh peaches, honey, sweet corn, all along the vine. And we'd eat on the tailgate with the juice running down our arms, while a farmer's dog came over from the house across the farm. The sun would drop a little and the light would go to gold, and we'd drive back slow through everything the summer had to hold, with the radio low and the fireflies just coming out to lead, and the road unspooling easy back through everything we need. Those roads have changed, some of them have disappeared entirely, grown over or paved over in the name of something cleaner. But I know their shapes still, know their curves and where the bridges crossed, the kind of knowing you don't gain and cannot quite be lost. It lives in how I hold the wheel on a summer evening still, when the light goes long in copper and I feel some kind of feel rising up from somewhere deep, a road I drove before with someone I was lucky enough to be with and adore. Those summer roads still live in my heart, long and bright and free. Every curve and every farmhouse, every light through tree, every roadside stand with peaches, and every pickup's radio song, every August afternoon that felt impossibly long. Yeah, those summer roads still live in my heart. They always will. In the back behind the hurry, and the calendar and the bill, and the place where I keep everything I drove through when I was young, and the world was just beginning, and the best roads were unsung. The weather vane is pouring east, and the sky has opened wide. The sun is back and everything is clean and bright outside. The yard's a bit torn up, and there are branches on the lawn, but the worst of it, by anyone's account, is over and gone. I walk out in the aftermath and breathe the wash-clean air, and feel that strange exhilaration only storms can share. With the ones who made it through them, there's a lightness and a calm, like the world's been given back to you, fresh pressed in every palm. But somewhere in my body, where the barometric lies, there's still the pressure of the storm, still something that it gives. Long after the last thunder rolled out past the eastern hill, my nervous system's holding on to something trembling still. I think it's always like that, after something big has moved through the life you've been so carefully in the building of and groove. The weather changes faster than the things inside the skin, and the storm may well be over, but the feeling lingers in. It's been some years now since the hardest storm I've lived, since the one that took the most from me and left the least to give. And the sun's been back for a long good while, the yard is healed and grown, and I've rebuilt the places that the storm had overthrown. But there are mornings when I feel it, just a ghost of what went through, a reminder in the tissues of the body of what storms can do. And I've made my peace with carrying it, that faint remaining ache is just the proof the storm was real, and real things leave a wake. The storm passed, but I still feel the rain in my bones, in the way I reach for shelter, in the way I'm never quite alone. With what I've been through, it walks beside me quiet, small, like a companion made of weather, like a shadow on the wall. Yeah, the storm passed, but I still feel the rain now and then. But I also feel the sunshine, and I'd live it all again. Because the storms are part of living, and the rain is part of growing, and feeling it still means the heart is still open and still going. And still going. Life is just a long, slow turning, like the earth around the sun. Then you were in the sweetest quarter. You were the brightest one. You came in like the first warm morning after a hard, cold spell, and everything that had been frozen started to breathe and swell. The light came different with you, longer, softer, more inclined to linger on the edges of the day and of the mind. And I walked through ordinary Tuesday afternoons, feeling blessed, because the season that you brought me was the one I loved the best. Every season has its mercy and its character and name, but you were like the crossing point when autumn starts to flame, when the summer's warmth is still here, but the air has gained an edge, and the world is at its fullest just before the year's last ledge. That particular abundance, ripe and lit and almost done, was how I felt with you. And every week beneath that sun, full enough to overflow and colored past all telling, a season at its perfect height before the long goodbye swelling. I've had my winters since you, long and white and stripped of sound, and I've had my springs that lifted me back up from the ground, and summers that were generous and full of their own grace, and every season taught me something I needed to embrace. But if I had to choose the one that shaped the way I see the whole long turning year of what this living's meant to be, it would be the one that's yours saturated time, when the world was warm and possible, and you were mine. If time had seasons, you were my favorite one. My long October light, my soft September sun, my morning in the apple orchard, heavy on the bough, my particular abundance, then and even now. Yeah, if time had seasons, you were the one that stayed the longest in my memory, and the slowest to have faded. And I carry you through winter, and I plant you back each spring. You were my favorite season, and the best of everything. Tell me in the comments which lyric found you, which season touched the place you keep the most, which line felt like yours. I'd love to know where these songs landed in you.